In the world of human influence, you've got the loud displays of power, right? The shouting, the big gestures. But then there are the silent weapons, the ones that operate in the spaces between words, not in what's said, but in what's withheld. Today, we're not talking about obvious aggression. No, we are diving deep into a much more precise and frankly more potent form of control, controlled emotional expression. We're going to break down how the strategic use of silence becomes the ultimate invisible weapon. Let that sink in for a moment. This idea right here, this is your shield. It's your defense against a very powerful kind of psychological leverage. It's a strategy where one person's emotional restraint becomes another person's cognitive prison. You see, this is a game where power isn't seized by being the loudest. It's seized by deliberately withholding emotional information, because it forces you to become your own interrogator. So let's break down exactly how this works. All right, so first up, let's expose the core principle behind this whole dynamic. This isn't just about someone being quiet or introverted, not at all. This is an active, even offensive strategy. We're going to deconstruct how carefully managed emotional restraint is used to turn your own mind, your very natural human desire for clarity and connection, against you. This is the art of weaponizing silence. And this really gets to a fundamental paradox of power. We're so often conditioned to think influence belongs to the most dominant person in the room, the loudest voice, the most forceful argument, but real, lasting control, it's often achieved in the exact opposite way. It's not seized by the person who expresses the most, but by the one who masters their own emotional output. They create this information vacuum that other people feel an almost desperate psychological need to fill. It's all about making your own stability so profound that it destabilizes everyone else. Okay, so there's actually a clinical term for this: controlled emotional expression. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It is the intentional, conscious choice to show only minimal, carefully selected emotional signals. And let's be really clear here, this isn't about being unfeeling or numb. It's the opposite. It's about feeling everything but displaying almost nothing. Or more accurately, displaying only the precise micro-expression that will get the job done. The goal here is simple: gain a strategic advantage and influence behavior without ever having to say a single command out loud. So what does it actually feel like to be on the receiving end of this tactic? Well, you're entering what's known as the ambiguity trap. This is where the psychological battle is fought. And the cost? It's paid entirely by the target, who's forced to navigate this world of emotional smoke and mirrors, constantly guessing, constantly uncertain, and constantly second-guessing themselves. Your mind just starts racing. You know the feeling. You've just presented your best work, or you've shared some exciting news, and you're met with nothing. A flat expression, a neutral tone, a pause that's just a little too long. And immediately, your brain's social threat detection system just goes into overdrive. You start scanning, searching for data, trying to make sense of the void. And the first question that almost always pops up is about you. Are they disappointed in me? Your mind is now desperately trying to solve an emotional puzzle that they've created. And that frantic search for meaning immediately leads to the next question. You start looking for a cause. Is it something I did? Was it something I said? You start replaying every single recent interaction, analyzing your own performance, your tone, looking for the mistake you must have made to deserve this silent disapproval. This whole internal monologue is cognitively exhausting. It's a massive and intentional drain on your mental and emotional resources. And that, right there, is the entire point. And there's a name for this whole situation: the ambiguity advantage. It gets right to the core of the strategy. See, the influencer, they have perfect emotional clarity. They know exactly how they feel and what they want. But you, the observer, you're thrown into the state of profound ambiguity. And that is the leverage point, right there. While you are burning massive amounts of energy trying to decode their silence, they're just conserving their energy, calmly watching you struggle, basically waiting for you to offer up compliance just to make your own anxiety go away. And look, the fallout from being stuck in this ambiguity trap is severe, and it builds over time. It creates this crippling sense of vulnerability because your emotional stability is now completely tied to someone else's unpredictable cues. It leads to strategic miscalculations because you start making decisions based on wild guesses about their mood. Over time, it can cause total decision paralysis. You become afraid to do anything that might provoke another silent rebuke. It just fosters this chronic emotional imbalance and a constant draining state of helplessness. Okay, so we've seen the what, and we know what it feels like from the inside. Now, let's pop the hood and look at the engine. How does this system actually work on a mechanical level? In this section, we're going to dissect the anatomy of this covert weapon, looking at the core components that make it so brutally effective. We're moving from the psychological effect to the strategic cause. The entire system runs on one core mechanism. It's called affect decoupling. Think of it like a firewall between your internal emotional reality and your external performance. It is the learned, practiced ability to intentionally separate what you are feeling on the inside from what you are showing on the outside. Mastering this skill is what allows someone to stay perfectly calm in a crisis or show subtle disappointment when they're actually thrilled with how a negotiation is going. It's the foundational skill of this whole strategy. So what affect decoupling creates is this profound imbalance, which we can call strategic emotional asymmetry. Just look at the two columns here. The influencer is operating with high internal awareness and a really low cognitive load. They're calm, they're saving mental energy, all while projecting just a minimal external display. Now look at the observer. You have low awareness of what's really going on with them, and you're saddled with a massive cognitive load, which forces you into a state of high anxiety and constant guesswork. One side exerts control, the other experiences confusion. This asymmetry, that's the battlefield. So how do they actually use this imbalance against you? Well, it's a simple but really powerful signal, response, feedback loop. Step 1, the influencer deploys a minimal signal, a slight frown, a pause, a neutral, I see. Step 2, the observer's anxiety spikes. Your brain flags this ambiguity as a potential social threat. Step 3, you offer compliance to relieve your own anxiety. You try to fix the problem you think exists, asking, is this better or should I do it this way instead? And then step 4, your compliance reinforces their control. They got what they wanted without ever having to ask, without a fight. And this is the moment control shifts, when they realize the threat of a subtle frown is way cheaper and more effective than a full-on confrontation. So we get the mechanics, but why does it work so well? Why are we so susceptible to this? In this section, we're going to explore the specific cognitive biases and primal instincts that this whole system hijacks. See, the strategy is so effective because it doesn't fight your brain, it actually uses your brain's own ancient programming against you. Here's the leverage point. They control your emotional input, which forces you to guess the command. And as you can see, the influencer is pulling 3 primary levers in your mind. First, by creating that ambiguity, they dramatically increase your cognitive load. You're constantly thinking, analyzing, guessing. Second, this high cognitive load directly fuels anxiety. And what's the fastest way for a human being to relieve anxiety? Well, that's the third lever, compliance. By fixing the perceived problem, you get a temporary hit of relief. And this is where the trap slams shut, when you allow the ambiguity to drive your anxiety, which in turn drives your compliance. But you know, there's something even deeper, something more primal going on here. It's called the status heuristic. On a subconscious level, our brains are wired to equate emotional stability with status and power. An individual who can stay calm and controlled under pressure is signaling low stress, low cortisol, and high control over their world. Our brains automatically, and often without us even realizing it, interpret this calm demeanor as a sign of a high-status leader who's worth following. And as soon as your brain tags them as high status, it flips another powerful mental switch, the authority bias. This is our ingrained tendency to just believe that an authority figure's opinion is more accurate and to be more influenced by it. So the influencer's calm, stable expression activates this bias, conditioning you to subconsciously seek their approval and making you way more likely to obey their implied commands. You start to believe their silent judgment is more valid than your own clear assessment of the situation. Okay, we have analyzed the problem, we've dissected the system, we understand the deep psychology. Now, we shift from diagnosis to prescription. What do you do about it? How do you defend against this? How do you reclaim control when you find yourself caught in this loop? This section is all about the strategic countermove, a clear, tactical protocol to neutralize the manipulation and bring balance back to the dynamic. The overarching counter strategy is what we'll call the emotional verification protocol. Its core principle is simple, but it takes conscious discipline. You must refuse to play the role of emotional interpreter. You stop guessing, you stop filling in the blanks, you just exit the game. Instead, you adopt a strategy of actively and calmly demanding clarity. The entire goal is to short-circuit the ambiguity that the whole system runs on. And the primary tool in your toolkit for this protocol is the neutral inquiry script. When you're met with that vague signal of disapproval, the frown, the silence, you don't retreat, you don't apologize, and you don't guess. You respond with a calm, neutral question just like this one. Could you clearly articulate the primary concern? Notice how precise that language is. It's not accusatory, it's professional, and it does something critical. It shifts the cognitive load from you right back onto them. You are forcing them to abandon ambiguity and state their position clearly with words. Now, using that script is just one part of it. The real work happens inside your own head. It's about decoupling your emotion from your compliance. You have to break that feedback loop internally. Step 1 is to just acknowledge the signal and the feeling it creates. Say to yourself, okay, I see the frown and I feel a spike of anxiety. Just naming the feeling creates distance from it. Then, step 2 is the crucial move. Assert autonomous action. You consciously decide what to do next based on your own logic, your priorities, and the objective facts, not on the desperate need to make that anxiety go away. You separate their implied emotion from your chosen action. We have covered a ton of ground here, from the deep psychology of the ambiguity trap all the way to the tactical scripts for reclaiming clarity. So now let's distill all of this down to a single, powerful strategic insight. This is the core principle you need to remember, the central law that governs this entire landscape of influence. Here it is. Volatility is vulnerability. When your emotional state is easily manipulated by external cues, when your reactions are predictable, you are vulnerable. Conversely, stability is the most valuable power resource there is. The person who can maintain their internal equilibrium, who can decouple their feelings from their actions, who can choose their response rather than just reacting, that is the person who holds the true position of power in any interaction. Your stability is your shield, and it's your sword. And so we end with this question. We've pulled back the curtain, and we've exposed the hidden machinery of this powerful psychological system. You can now see the ambiguity trap, the engine of affect decoupling, and that feedback loop of compliance. You have the countermeasure, the emotional verification protocol. The knowledge is now yours. So the final question isn't about them anymore. It's about you. Now that you can see the system, how will you choose to respond?